The woman stumbled into Isaac Ford's barn just after midnight with blood on her dress and terror in her eyes. And he knew right then that his quiet life as a cattle rancher was about to get a whole lot more complicated. Isaac had been checking on his mare, who was close to foaling, when he heard the barn door creak open. He turned, lantern in hand, expecting to find a coyote or maybe one of his ranch hands returning late from town. Instead, he found himself staring at a young woman with auburn hair falling loose from what had once been an elegant updo, her green eyes wide with fear and exhaustion. "Please," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "Please, I need help." Isaac set down the lantern carefully, his hand instinctively moving away from the rifle he kept near the stall. Something in her face told him she was not a threat, just terrified. "Are you hurt? Is that your blood?" She looked down at the dark stains on her pale blue dress as if seeing them for the first time. "No, no, it is not mine." Her voice broke. "I did not mean for any of this to happen. I swear to you I did not mean it." Isaac took a cautious step forward. "Easy now. Why do not you sit down before you fall down? You look like you have been running for miles." "I have," she said, and then her knees buckled. Isaac caught her before she hit the hay-strewn floor, surprised by how light she felt in his arms. He carried her to a wooden crate near the tack room and set her down gently. "Wait here," he said. "I will get you some water." When he returned from the pump outside, she was still sitting where he had left her, though she had wrapped her arms around herself and was shivering despite the warm June night. Fort Bowie, Arizona Territory, was never cold this time of year, which meant she was in shock. Isaac handed her the tin cup and watched as she drank deeply, water spilling down her chin in her haste. "Slowly," he said. "You will make yourself sick." She nodded and forced herself to take smaller sips. When she finally lowered the cup, she met his eyes. "My name is Katherine Noble, and I am wanted for murder." Isaac felt his stomach drop. "Murder? They will say that is what it was," Katherine said, her voice steadier now but still trembling at the edges. "But I was defending myself. He tried to force himself on me. He was drunk and he would not stop, and I pushed him. He fell and hit his head on the fireplace. I did not mean to kill him." "Who was he?" Katherine looked away. "Deputy Marshal Thomas Garrett. He was courting me, or so everyone thought. My father approved of the match. Deputy Garrett was well respected in town, had money, came from a good family. But he was not the man everyone believed him to be." She turned back to Isaac, and he saw tears streaming down her face. "When we were alone, he was cruel. He said terrible things. Tonight, after dinner at my father's house, he followed me into the parlor. My father had stepped out to speak with a neighbor. Deputy Garrett said it was time I stopped playing the innocent and gave him what he deserved as my future husband. I told him we were not engaged, that I had never agreed to marry him. He grabbed me. We struggled. And then he was on the floor, and there was so much blood, and I ran." Isaac ran a hand through his dark hair, trying to process what she was telling him. He was 32 years old and had been ranching in Arizona Territory for the past 8 years after leaving his family's farm in Missouri. He had seen his share of violence in his time, had even killed a man once when raiders attacked his property. But this was different. This was a woman accused of killing a lawman, whether she was in the right or not. "Where are you from?" he asked. "Tucson. I rode my father's horse until it went lame about 5 miles back. Then I walked." She looked at him with desperate hope. "I know I have no right to ask this of a stranger, but I am begging you. Please do not turn me in. I will hang. No one will believe me over a dead deputy marshal's reputation. His family has influence. They will make sure I pay." Isaac knew she was probably right. He had seen enough of frontier justice to know that it was not always just. A woman who killed a man, even in self-defense, faced an uphill battle in court, especially if the man was a lawman. And if she ran, well, that made her look guilty regardless of the truth. "You cannot stay in the barn," he finally said. "Come morning, my ranch hands will be here, but the house is empty except for me. You can clean up, get some rest. Then we will figure out what to do." Katherine stood up so quickly she swayed. "You are helping me." Just like that, Isaac picked up his lantern. "I am giving you a place to sleep for the night. The rest we will work out come daylight. Now follow me and stay quiet. My closest neighbor is a mile away, but sound carries at night." He led her across the yard to his ranch house, a modest but sturdy structure he had built himself from timber and adobe. Inside, he lit a lamp in the small kitchen and gestured to the back room. "That is my bedroom. Take it. There are clean clothes in the trunk at the foot of the bed. They belonged to my sister when she visited last year. They might fit you. Where will you sleep? I have a chair and a blanket. I will be fine." He paused. "There is a basin and pitcher for washing. Do what you need to do, then try to get some sleep." Katherine reached out and touched his arm. "Why are you being kind to me? You do not know me. You do not know if I am telling the truth." Isaac looked at her, really looked at her. He saw exhaustion and fear, yes, but also honesty in those green eyes. He had always been a good judge of character, a skill necessary for survival in this harsh territory. "I believe you," he said simply. "Now go on. Morning comes early on a ranch." After she disappeared into the bedroom, Isaac settled into his chair and tried to think. He was harboring a fugitive, which made him an accessory if they caught her here. But something in his gut told him he was doing the right thing. He had never been one to blindly trust the law, especially after seeing how it could be twisted to serve the powerful. He must have dozed off because the next thing he knew, gray dawn light was filtering through the windows. Isaac stood and stretched, his back protesting from the night in the chair. He could hear movement in the bedroom, so he started making coffee and biscuits for breakfast. Katherine emerged a few minutes later wearing his sister's old riding skirt and blouse. She had washed her face and braided her hair, and in the morning light, Isaac noticed things he had missed in the darkness. She was beautiful, yes, but there was also strength in the set of her jaw and intelligence in her eyes. He guessed she was in her early 20s, maybe 23 or 24. "I did not think I would be able to sleep," she said, "but I was unconscious the moment my head touched the pillow." "Fear and exhaustion will do that." Isaac poured her a cup of coffee. "Sit, eat. Then we need to talk about what happens next." They sat at his small kitchen table, and for a few minutes there was only the sound of eating. Finally, Katherine set down her biscuit. "You have thought about this all night, I imagine. What do you think I should do?" "Honestly, I think running makes you look guilty, but I also think you are right that going back to face trial would likely end with you hanging. So that leaves getting you somewhere safe where the law cannot reach you." "Mexico," Katherine said. "I could cross the border." Isaac shook his head. "You would not last a week on your own, and you do not speak Spanish. Plus, every lawman between here and the border will be looking for you once word gets out." "Then what? You stay here," Isaac said, the idea forming as he spoke. "At least for now. My ranch is remote. I do not get many visitors. You could stay in the house during the day when my men are working, and I will say you are my cousin from back east if anyone asks. That is too dangerous for you. If they find me here, you will be arrested too. Then we will be careful." Isaac met her eyes. "Look, I know this is not a perfect plan, but it buys us time to figure something else out. Maybe we can get word to someone in Tucson, find out exactly what they are saying about what happened. Maybe there are witnesses who saw him following you, who know about his temper." Katherine wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. "My father saw nothing. He was outside. The servants were in the kitchen. It was just Deputy Garrett and me in the parlor." But people might have known what he was really like. Men like that usually have a pattern. A flash of hope crossed her face. There was a girl, a saloon girl in Tucson. Her name is Molly. She told me once that Deputy Garrett had hurt her, that he liked to be rough with women. I gave her money to leave town and start fresh somewhere else. That was 6 months ago. Then maybe we can find her, get her to tell her story. Isaac stood up. But for now, you need to stay out of sight. My men will be here soon to start the day's work. Stay in the bedroom with the door closed. Do not make any noise. I will bring you lunch when I can. Katherine stood as well. Isaac, I do not know how to thank you. Do not thank me yet. We are a long way from you being safe. The next few days fell into a tense routine. Isaac worked his ranch as usual, directing his 3 hired hands in their tasks of mending fences, tending cattle, and maintaining the property. Katherine stayed hidden in the house, speaking only in whispers when Isaac came in for meals. At night, after the ranch hands had left for their own small cabins at the far edge of the property, Isaac and Katherine would sit together and talk. He learned that she was 24 years old, the daughter of a merchant who had made his fortune supplying goods to the army. She had been educated at a boarding school back east and had returned to Tucson 2 years ago. She loved books, could play the piano, and had a sharp mind for numbers that her father had never appreciated. He wanted me to marry well and produce grandchildren, Katherine said on the 3rd night as they sat on Isaac's small porch, the desert stars brilliant overhead. That was the extent of his ambition for me. When Deputy Garrett started paying attention, my father practically threw me at him. Did you care for the deputy at first? Isaac asked. Katherine was quiet for a moment. I thought I might learn to. He was handsome, charming in public. But there were small things that troubled me. The way he spoke to servants, how he gripped my arm too tightly when we walked, and then one night he told me that once we were married I would need to be more obedient. That word, obedient, like I was a dog to be trained. She shook her head. I told my father I did not wish to continue the courtship, but he insisted, said I was being foolish and particular. That is when things with Deputy Garrett got worse. He started acting as if we were already engaged, taking liberties, making assumptions. I am sorry, Isaac said. You deserved better than that. Did I? Katherine turned to look at him. Sometimes I wonder if I was wrong to fight back. Maybe I should have just accepted it, let him have his way. Then he would still be alive and I would not be a fugitive. Do not ever think that, Isaac said fiercely. You had every right to defend yourself. What he tried to do was wrong and you stopped him. The fact that he died, that is not your fault. Katherine's eyes shimmered with tears in the starlight. You barely know me, yet you have more faith in me than my own father ever did. Isaac reached out and took her hand, surprising himself with the gesture. Her fingers were small and soft in his calloused palm. I know enough. I know you are brave and strong. I know you did not deserve what happened to you. And I know I am going to do everything I can to help you. They sat like that for a long moment, hands clasped, and Isaac felt something shift inside him. This woman had crashed into his life unexpected and afraid, and now he could not imagine his house without her in it. The thought scared him almost as much as the knowledge that lawmen could show up at any moment looking for her. On the 5th day, Isaac rode into Fort Bowie to get supplies and hear any news from Tucson. The small settlement had grown up around the army fort and served as a trading post for the ranchers and miners in the area. Isaac tied his horse outside the general store and went inside, nodding to the proprietor. "Morning, Isaac," said Henry Walsh, the store owner. "The usual supplies?" "Yes, and some fabric if you have it. Good quality." Henry raised an eyebrow. "Fabric? You taking up sewing? My cousin is visiting from Missouri. She needs some new dresses." "Cousin, huh? Did not know you had family coming." Henry pulled out several bolts of cloth. "How long is she staying?" "Not sure yet. Depends on how she likes it here." Isaac selected a blue fabric that matched Catherine's eyes and a simpler brown calico. "I will take 5 yards of each." As Henry measured and cut the fabric, another customer entered the store. Isaac's blood went cold when he recognized the silver star on the man's vest. He was a lawman, though not one Isaac had seen before. "Afternoon, gentlemen," the lawman said. "Name is Sheriff William Porter out of Tucson. I am looking for someone." He pulled a piece of paper from his pocket and unfolded it. "A woman named Katherine Noble. She is wanted for the murder of Deputy Marshal Thomas Garrett, killed him in cold blood and fled. Last anyone saw, she was headed this direction." Isaac kept his face neutral as he looked at the wanted poster. Someone had drawn a decent likeness of Katherine, though they had made her look harder, meaner than she really was. "Have not seen anyone matching that description," he said, "but I will keep an eye out." Sheriff Porter studied Isaac for a moment. "You look familiar. Have we met?" "I do not believe so. I am Isaac Ford. I have a ranch about 10 miles south of here. I keep to myself mostly." "Ford," the sheriff repeated. "Well, Mr. Ford, if you do see this woman, you let me know right away. She is dangerous. Killed a good man, a lawman, for no reason other than he would not loan her money." Isaac felt anger flash through him but kept it off his face. So that was the story they were telling. "That is terrible. I will certainly keep watch." After the sheriff left, Henry leaned across the counter. "That is some serious business. A woman killing a deputy marshal. What is the territory coming to?" "I guess we will never know the full story," Isaac said carefully. "Could be more to it than what the sheriff says." Henry shrugged. "Maybe, but lawmen do not usually lie about such things. She must have been a real cold one." He wrapped Isaac's purchases. "Here you go. You give my regards to your cousin." Isaac loaded his supplies onto his horse and rode back to the ranch, his mind racing. The law was actively looking for Katherine, and they had a story that made her look like a calculating murderer. Worse, Sheriff Porter was from Tucson, which meant he likely knew the Garrett family personally and had a vested interest in seeing Katherine hang. When he got back to the ranch, he found Katherine in the kitchen, having taken the risk of baking bread while his men were out working the far pasture. The smell filled the house, homey and warm. "You should not have done that," Isaac said, though without much heat. "Someone might have noticed the smoke from the chimney." "I needed to do something useful," Katherine said. "I feel like a burden hiding here while you do everything." Then she saw his face. "What happened? What is wrong?" Isaac told her about the sheriff and the wanted poster and the story they were spreading about her. Katherine sank into a chair, her face pale. "They are saying I killed him for money. That is absurd. I have never needed money from anyone. My father is wealthy." "They are making you look like a criminal, someone who killed in cold blood rather than self-defense. It is going to make it even harder for you to get a fair hearing." Katherine put her face in her hands. "This is hopeless. I should just turn myself in." "No." Isaac knelt in front of her chair and took her hands, pulling them away from her face. "Listen to me, Katherine. We are not giving up. That sheriff does not know you are here, and there is no reason for him to suspect. You are safe for now. But for how long? And what kind of life is this, hiding in your house, afraid of every sound? You have already done so much for me, more than I had any right to ask. I cannot keep putting you in danger. You are not putting me anywhere. I am choosing to help you." Isaac realized he was still holding her hands and did not want to let go. "Katherine, these past few days, having you here, it has made me realize how lonely I have been. This ranch, it is a good life, but it is a solitary one. You have changed that." Katherine looked at him with wide eyes. "Isaac, what are you saying?" "I am saying that I care about what happens to you, not just because I believe you are innocent, but because I have come to care about you." The words came out in a rush. "I know the circumstances are impossible. I know you are running for your life and have no reason to think about anything else. But I needed you to know, you matter to me." For a long moment, Katherine did not speak. Then she leaned forward and kissed him, soft and tentative. Isaac froze in surprise before responding, one hand coming up to cup her face. The kiss deepened, gentle but full of emotion, and when they finally pulled apart, they were both breathing hard. "I care about you too," Katherine whispered. "From the first night, when you believed me without question, when you gave up your own bed for a stranger. I have been trying not to feel this way because everything is so complicated, but I cannot help it." Isaac stood and pulled her up with him, wrapping his arms around her. She fit against him perfectly, her head tucked under his chin. "We will figure this out," he promised. "Somehow we will find a way." They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the quiet kitchen, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows. For the first time since Katherine had stumbled into his barn, Isaac felt something other than worry. He felt hope. Over the next 2 weeks, Isaac and Katherine grew closer. They stole moments together when the ranch hands were occupied, talking late into the night about their lives, their hopes, their fears. Katherine told him about growing up in St. Louis before her mother died and her father moved them west. Isaac shared stories about his childhood in Missouri, about the farm his father had lost to debt, and why he had come to Arizona Territory to start fresh. "I wanted to prove I could build something on my own," Isaac said one evening as they sat on the porch. "My father was a good man, but he made bad decisions. I was determined not to follow in his footsteps." "You have succeeded," Katherine said. "This ranch, everything you have built, it is impressive. It is small compared to some of the big operations around here. But it is yours. That matters." Katherine leaned her head on his shoulder. "I never had anything that was truly mine. Everything was my father's, or would belong to my future husband. Even my dreams were dictated by what was proper for a woman of my station." "What would you do if you could do anything?" Isaac asked. Katherine was quiet, thinking. "I would want to help people, women especially. There are so many who have no voice, no power over their own lives. I would want to change that somehow." Isaac kissed the top of her head. "Maybe you still can, once we get you clear of these charges." But getting her clear was proving difficult. Isaac had ridden to Fort Bowie twice more for news, and each time he heard the same story. The Garrett family was putting pressure on law enforcement across the territory. Rewards were being offered for information leading to Katherine's capture. And Sheriff Porter was still in the area, checking every ranch and homestead. Isaac knew it was only a matter of time before the sheriff showed up at his door. He and Katherine talked about it one night after his men had left. "We need a plan for when he comes," Isaac said. "Because he will come eventually. He is being thorough." "I could hide in the root cellar," Katherine suggested. "It is underground. No one would think to look there." "Unless they search the property, and if they find you hidden, it will make both of us look guilty." Isaac paced the small living room. "No, I think our best bet is to hide you in plain sight." "What do you mean?" "I have been telling people my cousin is visiting. If the sheriff comes, you be my cousin. We say you are Katherine Ford, not Noble. Your father was my uncle, deceased. You have come to visit because you are thinking about settling in the territory." Katherine shook her head. "He has my description. He will recognize me. The wanted poster is not perfect. Your hair is different, you are dressed differently, and you will be in the company of someone vouching for you. People see what they expect to see. If I introduce you as my cousin, he will have no reason to suspect otherwise. And if he does suspect," Isaac met her eyes, "then I will protect you. Whatever it takes." 2 days later, Isaac spotted a rider approaching the ranch in late afternoon. He recognized Sheriff Porter immediately and felt his stomach clench. He found Katherine in the kitchen. "The sheriff is here," he said quietly. "Remember, you are my cousin Katherine Ford from Missouri. You have been here for 3 weeks visiting. Stay calm." Katherine nodded, though Isaac could see the fear in her eyes. He squeezed her hand once, then went to meet the sheriff outside. "Sheriff Porter," Isaac said, stepping off his porch. "What brings you out this way, Mr. Ford? Good to see you again." The sheriff dismounted. "I am still looking for Katherine Noble. I heard you have a female cousin visiting. Thought I should check just to be thorough." "Of course. My cousin Katherine is inside. Would you like to meet her?" "I would." Isaac led the sheriff into the house, his heart pounding. Katherine was sitting at the kitchen table with a book, looking for all the world like she belonged there. She looked up as they entered and smiled. "Isaac, we have a visitor." "Katherine, this is Sheriff Porter from Tucson." "Sheriff, my cousin Katherine Ford." Katherine stood and nodded politely. "Sheriff, is something wrong?" Sheriff Porter studied her for a long moment. Isaac held his breath. Then the sheriff shook his head slightly. "I am looking for a woman from Tucson. She is wanted for murder." "Your cousin and I just wanted to make sure all the women in the area are accounted for." "How terrible," Katherine said, her voice steady. "I came from Missouri, though, not Tucson. I have never been to that city, though Isaac has told me about it." "How long are you planning to stay?" the sheriff asked. "I have not decided yet. I am enjoying the territory very much. It is quite different from St. Louis." The sheriff nodded slowly. "Well, Miss Ford, I apologize for the intrusion, just doing my job." He turned to Isaac. "Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Ford. If you hear anything about this Katherine Noble, you will let me know." "Of course," Isaac said, walking the sheriff back outside. He watched the man mount his horse and ride away, not allowing himself to relax until the sheriff was out of sight. Back in the house, Katherine was shaking. Isaac pulled her into his arms. "You did perfectly," he said. "He believed you. I thought I would die when he looked at me like that. I was certain he knew, but he did not. We are safe." Isaac tilted her face up to his. "You are safe." Katherine kissed him then, fierce and grateful, and Isaac responded with equal intensity. They stumbled toward his bedroom, shedding clothes along the way, driven by the adrenaline of the close call and the feelings they had been holding back for weeks. Afterward, lying tangled together in Isaac's bed, Katherine traced patterns on his chest. "What do we do now?" she asked softly. "What do you mean?" "The sheriff believed I am your cousin for now, but we cannot keep up this pretense forever. Someone will eventually question it. And we cannot keep living like this, jumping at every sound, afraid of being discovered." Isaac pulled her closer. "Then maybe it is time we stopped hiding." "What?" "Not you hiding from the law," Isaac clarified, "but us hiding our feelings. Katherine, I love you. I think I have loved you since that first night in the barn when you looked at me with such fear and hope. These weeks with you have been the happiest of my life, despite the danger. I do not want to lose you." Katherine's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too. But loving you does not solve the problem that I am wanted for murder. Then we find a way to clear your name. We find that saloon girl, Molly. We find other women Deputy Garrett hurt. We build a case that shows he was not the man everyone thought he was. That could take months, years even. And there is no guarantee it would work. I know, but it is better than you running forever or worse, turning yourself in to hang." Isaac kissed her forehead. "Marry me, Katherine." She pulled back to look at him. "What? Marry me? If you are my wife, it gives more weight to your presence here. It makes it harder for them to take you away. And selfishly, I want you to be my wife. I want to build a life with you, a real life." "Isaac, that is insane. You would be tying yourself to a fugitive." "I would be marrying the woman I love. That is all that matters to me." He took her hand. I know this is not how either of us imagined a proposal. I do not have a ring. We are in a terrible situation, but my feelings are real. I want you to stay, not as a woman hiding, but as my partner, my wife." Katherine was crying openly now. "Yes, yes, I will marry you. I want that more than anything." They made love again, slower this time, sealing their commitment to each other. Later, as Katherine slept in his arms, Isaac stared at the ceiling and wondered if he was making a terrible mistake. But then Katherine murmured his name in her sleep and nestled closer, and he knew he would do it all again without hesitation. The next morning, Isaac told his ranch hands that he and his cousin Katherine were getting married. If they were surprised, they hid it well. Men in the territory learned not to ask too many questions. "Congratulations, boss," said Miguel, Isaac's oldest and most trusted hand. "Will you be having a ceremony? Something small, just us and a preacher." Isaac clapped Miguel on the shoulder. "I appreciate your discretion about all this." Miguel nodded. "Your business is your business, but I will say she seems like a good woman. You deserve to be happy." Isaac found a traveling preacher who came through Fort Bowie once a month and arranged for him to come to the ranch. 3 days later, with Miguel and the other 2 ranch hands as witnesses, Isaac and Katherine were married in the small living room of the ranch house. Katherine wore a dress she had sewn herself from the fabric Isaac had bought, a simple but elegant design in the blue that matched her eyes. "Do you, Isaac Ford, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" the preacher asked. "I do," Isaac said, looking into Katherine's eyes. "And do you, Katherine Ford, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "I do," Katherine said, her voice strong and sure. "Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Isaac pulled Katherine into his arms and kissed her, not caring that they had an audience. When they broke apart, Katherine was smiling through tears, and Isaac felt a sense of rightness he had never experienced before. That night they celebrated quietly, just the 2 of them. "Katherine Ford," Isaac said, testing out her new name. "It sounds good." "It sounds like safety," Katherine replied. "Like a new beginning. It is. Whatever happens, we face it together now." But the peace did not last long. A week after the wedding, Isaac rode into Fort Bowie for supplies and was met with troubling news. Sheriff Porter had been asking more questions about Isaac's cousin, now his wife. Someone had mentioned that it seemed convenient, a woman showing up from nowhere and marrying Isaac so quickly. Isaac hurried home and told Katherine, "We need to be more careful. People are starting to wonder." "Maybe we should leave," Katherine said. "Head to California or Oregon, somewhere far from here." "And what? Start over again, always looking over our shoulders?" "No, I built this ranch from nothing. I am not abandoning it unless we have no choice." Katherine nodded, but Isaac could see the worry in her eyes. That worry proved justified when, 2 days later, Sheriff Porter returned to the ranch with 2 deputies. "Mr. Ford," the sheriff said, his tone more formal than before, "I need to speak with your wife." "What about?" Isaac asked, stepping out onto the porch to block the doorway. "I have been doing some investigating. I received a telegram from Tucson. Seems a merchant there by the name of Robert Noble reported his daughter missing the same night Deputy Garrett was killed. His daughter's name, Katherine Noble. Now, that would not mean much on its own, but Mr. Noble provided a detailed description of his daughter. That description matches your wife very closely." Isaac felt cold dread wash over him. "Lots of women look similar, Sheriff." "That is true, which is why I need to speak with Mrs. Ford directly. If she is who she says she is, she should not mind answering a few questions." Katherine appeared in the doorway before Isaac could respond. "I am Katherine Ford, Sheriff. What questions do you have?" "Mrs. Ford, where exactly in Missouri did you live before coming here?" "St. Louis, and your father's name, James Ford. He passed away 5 years ago. Any way to verify that? Katherine lifted her chin. I suppose you could check the cemetery records in St. Louis, but that seems like a lot of trouble for such a small concern. Sheriff Porter pulled out the wanted poster. Mrs. Ford, I have to ask, are you Katherine Noble? I am Katherine Ford. I married Isaac a week ago. That is not what I asked. Isaac stepped forward. Sheriff, you are harassing my wife based on nothing but a physical resemblance. Unless you have actual proof of wrongdoing, I am going to have to ask you to leave my property. One of the deputies spoke up. We could search the house. Not without cause, you cannot, Isaac said. I know my rights. Sheriff Porter studied them both for a long moment. Then he nodded. Very well. But I will be watching, Mr. Ford. If your wife is Katherine Noble, I will prove it. After they left, Isaac and Katherine held each other, both shaking. He knows, Katherine whispered. He knows it is me. Suspecting and proving are two different things. As long as we stick to our story, he has nothing. But Isaac knew they were on borrowed time. The sheriff was not going to give up, and it was only a matter of time before he found the proof he needed. That night, Isaac made a decision. We need to go on the offensive, he told Katherine. We need to find Molly and any other women Deputy Garrett hurt. If we can show the sheriff that Garrett was not the man he appeared to be, maybe we can get him to see your side of things. How do we find Molly? I told her to leave Tucson. She could be anywhere. She was a saloon girl. There are only so many saloons in the territory where a woman can work. We start checking them, asking questions. That could take months, and you cannot leave the ranch for that long. Isaac thought for a moment. Then I will hire someone to do the searching for us. There is a man in Fort Bowie, a former scout named Daniel Irwin. He knows the territory better than anyone and is discreet. I will pay him to find Molly. The next day, Isaac found Daniel in the saloon in Fort Bowie. He was a grizzled man in his 50s with hard eyes and a weathered face. Isaac explained what he needed, though not why. You are looking for a saloon girl named Molly who left Tucson about 6 months back. I need to know where she ended up. Daniel stroked his beard. That is a lot of territory to cover. Why do you need to find her? That is my business. Will you do it or not? I will pay you $50. Make it $75 and you have a deal. Fine. $75, but I need you to move fast. Daniel nodded. I will start in the southern towns and work my way north. If she is working in a saloon anywhere between here and Mexico, I will find her. While Daniel searched, Isaac and Katherine tried to maintain normalcy at the ranch, but Sheriff Porter made that difficult. He or one of his deputies rode by at least once a week, always watching, always looking for something to prove Katherine's true identity. The strain was beginning to show. Katherine had nightmares about being arrested and hanged. Isaac found himself sleeping with a rifle by the bed, jumping at every unexpected sound. The ranch hands noticed the tension but asked no questions, loyal to Isaac. 6 weeks after Daniel left on his search, he returned with news. Isaac met him in Fort Bowie, and they spoke in a quiet corner of the saloon. I found your Molly, Daniel said. She is working in a place called the Silver Star in Prescott. Calls herself Mary now, but it is the same girl based on the description you gave me. She is doing well for herself, seems happier than most girls in that line of work. Isaac felt a surge of hope. Will she talk to me? Cannot say. I did not mention you or tell her why I was asking about her. Figured you would want to approach that yourself. Isaac paid Daniel the agreed amount plus an extra $20. I appreciate your discretion. One more thing, Daniel said. There was a man asking about her too about a week before I got there. Tall fellow with a deputy's badge. He was asking if anyone knew a Molly who used to work in Tucson. Isaac's stomach dropped. Did he find her? Not that I could tell, but he is looking. Isaac rode back to the ranch and told Katherine, "We need to get to Molly before the sheriff does. If she tells him about Deputy Garrett hurting her, it could help your case. But if he gets to her first, he might pressure her to stay quiet or even leave town again." "Then we go to Prescott," Katherine said. "Both of us. That is too dangerous. You would be recognized." "Isaac, I am already at risk here. At least in Prescott, no one knows me. And Molly will be more likely to talk to me, woman to woman, than to you." Isaac did not like it, but he knew she was right. "We tell the ranch hands I am taking you to visit a friend. We will be gone a week at most." They left 2 days later, riding north toward Prescott. The journey took 3 days, and they camped under the stars each night. Despite the danger, Isaac found himself cherishing the time alone with Katherine, away from the ranch and the constant worry about the sheriff. "This is what I imagined when I came west," Katherine said one night as they lay by the campfire. "Adventure, freedom, beauty, not hiding in fear. When this is over," Isaac promised, "I will take you anywhere you want to go. We will explore the whole territory together." Katherine kissed him. "I do not need to go anywhere as long as I am with you." They reached Prescott on the 4th day and found the Silver Star Saloon easily. Isaac went in first, alone, to make sure Sheriff Porter or his deputies were not around. The place was busy with miners and cowboys, but no lawmen that Isaac could see. He asked the bartender to speak with Mary, saying he had news from an old friend. A few minutes later, Molly appeared. She was younger than Isaac expected, maybe 23, with tired eyes and dyed blonde hair. "You asked for me," she said. "My name is Isaac Ford. I need to talk to you about someone you knew in Tucson, Katherine Noble." Molly's face went white. "I do not know that name. Please. Katherine is in trouble, and you might be the only person who can help her." "She said you told her about Deputy Marshal Thomas Garrett, about how he hurt you." Molly glanced around nervously. "I cannot talk about that here. Meet me behind the saloon in an hour." Isaac agreed and left. He collected Katherine from the hotel where she had been waiting, and they made their way to the meeting place. Molly was already there, wrapped in a shawl despite the warm evening. "Katherine," she said when she saw them, "is that really you? I heard you killed Deputy Garrett and ran." "I did kill him, but it was self-defense," Katherine said. "He tried to force himself on me. I told him no, we struggled, and he fell. Molly, I need you to tell what happened between you and him. It might be the only way to prove I am not a cold-blooded murderer." Molly shook her head. "I cannot. The Garrett family is powerful. If I speak against them, they will destroy me." "You are already hiding under a different name in a different town," Isaac pointed out. "What more can they do to you? You do not understand. Deputy Garrett was not the only one. His brother, his father, they are all the same. They think they can take what they want from women like me because we do not matter. If I testify, they will make sure I never work again, or worse." Katherine took Molly's hands. "I understand you are frightened. But if you do not speak up, I will hang for defending myself. And the next woman who says no to a Garrett will die too, because they will know they can get away with it. We have to stand up to them." "Easy for you to say. You are a respectable woman from a good family. I am a whore. No one cares what happens to me." "I care," Katherine said fiercely. "That is why I gave you the money to leave Tucson, remember? Because I believe every woman deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of her station." Molly's eyes filled with tears. "If I do this, if I testify, you have to promise me something. Promise me that if it does not work, if they come after me, you will help me get away. Really away, like California or back east." "I promise," Katherine said without hesitation. "And Isaac will help too. We will not abandon you." Molly wiped her eyes. "Then I will do it. I will tell them what Deputy Garrett did to me, how he beat me and forced himself on me and laughed when I cried. I will tell them he is not the hero they think he is." Isaac felt relief flood through him. "Thank you. This means everything." "When do you need me to testify?" "That is the problem," Isaac admitted. "Katherine has not had a trial. She fled Tucson when it happened. Right now she is wanted and the sheriff is hunting her." "So what good does my testimony do?" "We are going to go to the territorial judge," Isaac said, thinking quickly. "We are going to present your testimony and Katherine's story and ask for a fair hearing. The judge has the power to grant her a trial here instead of sending her back to Tucson where the Garrett family has influence." "That is a long shot," Molly said. "It is the only shot we have." They spent the next day preparing. Isaac found a lawyer in Prescott, a young man named Samuel Preston who had a reputation for taking difficult cases. Isaac told him the whole story, and Samuel listened intently. "This is highly irregular," Samuel said when Isaac finished. "But it might work. Judge Harrison is a fair man, and he has no connection to the Garrett family. If we can convince him that Mrs. Ford would not receive a fair trial in Tucson, he might agree to hear the case here." "What are our chances?" Katherine asked. "Honestly, 50-50 at best, but it is better odds than if you turn yourself in to Sheriff Porter." Samuel looked at Katherine seriously. "You understand that if we do this, if we go before the judge, you are admitting who you really are." "There is no going back." Katherine looked at Isaac and he took her hand. "We do it," she said. "I am tired of hiding. I am tired of running. I want my life back." 2 days later they stood in the chambers of Judge Thomas Harrison, a stern-faced man in his 60s. With them were Samuel, Molly, and surprisingly, Sheriff Porter, who had somehow learned they were in Prescott and insisted on being present. "This is highly unusual," the judge said, looking over the papers Samuel had filed. "Mrs. Ford, or should I say Miss Noble, you are wanted for murder in Tucson. You have been evading arrest for weeks. Why should I grant you a hearing instead of simply turning you over to Sheriff Porter here?" Samuel stood. "Your Honor, my client maintains that she acted in self-defense against a man who was attempting to assault her. She fled not because she is guilty, but because she knew she would not receive a fair hearing in Tucson. The victim's family is influential there, and the circumstances would be judged not by the facts, but by prejudice against a woman who dared to defend herself." "That is a convenient excuse," Sheriff Porter said. "The fact is, she killed a deputy marshal, a decorated officer of the law, and ran. That speaks to consciousness of guilt." "We have a witness," Samuel said, "a witness who will testify to Deputy Garrett's true character and pattern of behavior toward women." Judge Harrison turned to Molly. "You are this witness." Molly stood, trembling slightly. "Yes, sir. My name is Molly Reed. I knew Deputy Garrett in Tucson. He hurt me. He forced himself on me multiple times and beat me when I resisted. He was not a good man, no matter what people say about him." "She is lying," Sheriff Porter said. "She is a prostitute. Her testimony is worthless." "I will determine the value of the testimony, Sheriff," the judge said sharply. He looked at Molly. "Why did you not report these assaults? Who would have believed me? I am a saloon girl. He was a lawman. It would have been my word against his, and I would have lost. So I kept quiet and left town as soon as I could." The judge was quiet for a long moment, studying the papers before him. Then he looked at Katherine. "Miss Noble, tell me in your own words what happened the night Deputy Garrett died." Katherine stood, and Isaac squeezed her hand once before letting go. "Deputy Garrett had been courting me, or so everyone believed. My father approved, but the deputy was not who people thought. He was controlling and cruel in private. The night he died, he cornered me in my father's parlor. He said we would be married soon, and it was time I stopped resisting him. I told him I would not marry him. He grabbed me and pushed me against the wall. He started tearing at my dress. I fought back. I pushed him as hard as I could, and he stumbled backward and hit his head on the marble fireplace. There was so much blood. I knew he was dead, and I knew no one would believe me, so I ran. Why not go to your father? My father chose Deputy Garrett over me long before that night. He made it clear that my duty was to marry well, not to have opinions or desires of my own. He would not have believed me. No one would have. Judge Harrison leaned back in his chair. This is a difficult situation. On the one hand, Miss Noble, you did kill a man and flee rather than face justice. On the other hand, your story and Miss Reed's testimony paint a picture of a man who was not what he seemed. Your Honor, Sheriff Porter said, I must protest. You cannot take the word of these women over a dead man's reputation. Deputy Garrett cannot defend himself against these accusations. Which is precisely why we need to examine all the evidence carefully, the judge said. Sheriff, I am going to grant Miss Noble a hearing here in Prescott. I want to hear all the facts before making a decision about whether she should stand trial and, if so, where that trial should take place. Your Honor, this is outrageous, Sheriff Porter began, but the judge held up his hand. My decision is made, Sheriff. The hearing will take place next week. Until then, Miss Noble will remain in custody, but here in Prescott, not Tucson. Isaac felt his heart sink as two deputies stepped forward to take Katherine. She looked at him, fear in her eyes, but also something else. Hope. It is going to be okay, Isaac told her. We are going to get through this. Katherine was taken to the small jail in Prescott, and Isaac spent every moment he could with her, sitting outside her cell and talking through the bars. Samuel worked tirelessly to prepare their case, gathering statements and evidence. The hearing began on a Monday morning in late September. The courtroom was packed with curious onlookers, and Isaac saw that someone had sent word to the Garrett family because 3 men who looked remarkably alike sat in the front row, glaring at Katherine. Samuel made his opening statement, laying out the case for self-defense. He called Molly to the stand first, and she told her story of abuse at Deputy Garrett's hands. The Garrett family's lawyer, a slick man named Edmund Blackwell, tried to tear her testimony apart, suggesting she was lying for money or attention. Is it not true, Miss Reed, that you are a prostitute? Blackwell asked. I work in a saloon, Molly said, her voice steady despite the humiliation. But that does not mean I deserved what Deputy Garrett did to me. Is it not also true that you have reason to hold a grudge against the Garrett family? That you were asked to leave Tucson because of your behavior? I left Tucson because I was afraid for my life. And yes, I hold a grudge against men who think they can hurt women without consequences. Next, Samuel called Katherine to the stand. She described the events of that night in detail, her voice shaking but clear. Isaac watched the judge's face, trying to gauge his reaction. Miss Noble, Blackwell said when it was his turn to question her, you admit you killed Deputy Garrett? Yes. And you fled the scene rather than call for help or notify the authorities? Yes. Does that sound like the action of an innocent woman? It sounds like the action of a terrified woman who knew no one would believe her, Katherine said. Everything you are doing right now, trying to make me look like a liar and a criminal, is exactly what I knew would happen. The only difference is that now I have people willing to stand with me. The hearing lasted 3 days. Witnesses testified to Deputy Garrett's character, painting a picture of a man who was charming in public, but cruel in private. Samuel found 2 other women who came forward to say the deputy had been inappropriate with them as well, though none had suffered as badly as Molly. Finally, Judge Harrison called for closing arguments. Samuel stood and addressed the court. Your Honor, What we have here is not a case of cold-blooded murder, but a tragedy born of a system that does not protect women from powerful men. Katherine Noble defended herself against a man who was attacking her. She should not be punished for surviving. I ask that you dismiss the murder charge and allow her to go free. Blackwell shook his head. Your Honor, regardless of what these women say about Deputy Garrett's character, the fact remains that Miss Noble killed him and fled. If we allow women to claim self-defense every time they kill a man, where does it end? The law must be upheld. Judge Harrison looked tired as he gazed out at the courtroom. I will need time to consider all the testimony. This court will reconvene tomorrow at 10 o'clock for my ruling. That night, Isaac could not sleep. He paced his hotel room, praying for the first time in years. Katherine was so close to freedom, but it could all be taken away with a single decision. The next morning, the courtroom was even more crowded than before. Isaac sat directly behind the defense table, close enough to reach out and touch Katherine's shoulder. She turned and gave him a small smile, but he could see the fear in her eyes. Judge Harrison entered, and everyone stood. When they sat again, the judge shuffled his papers and cleared his throat. I have given this case a great deal of thought, he began. The testimony presented here paints two very different pictures of Deputy Marshal Thomas Garrett. On the one hand, we have statements from his family and colleagues that he was an upstanding officer of the law. On the other hand, we have testimony from multiple women that he had a pattern of inappropriate and violent behavior toward women. The judge paused. The question before me is whether Katherine Noble committed murder or acted in self-defense. Based on the evidence presented, including Miss Reed's testimony and the testimony of other women, I find it credible that Deputy Garrett did indeed attack Miss Noble on the night in question. I also find that Miss Noble's decision to flee, while unfortunate, was understandable given the circumstances and the influence of the Garrett family in Tucson. Isaac held his breath. Therefore, the judge continued, I am ruling that Katherine Noble acted in justifiable self-defense. The murder charge is dismissed. Miss Noble, you are free to go. The courtroom erupted. The Garrett family was shouting protests, Molly was crying, and Isaac pushed through to get to Katherine. She stood on shaky legs, tears streaming down her face, and threw herself into his arms. It is over, she said. It is really over. You are free, Isaac said, holding her tight. You are really free. Sheriff Porter stood and addressed the judge. Your Honor, I must protest this ruling. How can you simply dismiss a murder charge based on the word of women of questionable character? Judge Harrison's face hardened. Sheriff, I have made my ruling based on the evidence presented. If you question my judgment, you are welcome to file an appeal, but unless and until that appeal is granted, Miss Noble is a free woman. Now this court is adjourned. As they left the courtroom, Edmund Blackwell blocked their path. This is not over, he said coldly. The Garrett family will not let this stand. You have made powerful enemies. Isaac stepped forward, putting himself between Blackwell and Katherine. Is that a threat? It is a fact. Watch your back, Ford. Samuel put a hand on Isaac's arm. Let it go, you have won. Do not give them an excuse to cause more trouble. Outside, in the sunshine, Katherine turned her face to the sky and breathed deeply. I cannot believe it is real. I keep thinking I am going to wake up and still be in that cell. It is real, Isaac said. You are free, and you are my wife, and we are going home. They thanked Molly profusely, and true to their word, Isaac gave her enough money to travel to San Francisco and start a new life. You saved me, Katherine told her. I will never forget that. You saved me first, Molly replied. When you gave me the money to leave Tucson, I guess we are even now. The ride back to the ranch took 3 days, and every mile felt like a celebration. Katherine talked constantly about the future, about all the things she wanted to do now that she did not have to hide. "I want to help other women," she said. "Women in situations like mine or like Molly's. I want to make sure they have somewhere to go, someone to believe them." "Then we will make that happen," Isaac promised. "Whatever you need." When they finally reached the ranch, Miguel and the other hands were waiting. "We heard the news," Miguel said, grinning. "The whole territory is talking about it, the woman who faced down the Garretts and won." "I did not do it alone," Katherine said, smiling at Isaac. "I had help from good people." That night, alone in their bedroom, Isaac and Katherine held each other close. "I love you," Isaac said. "I loved you when you were hiding in my barn. I loved you when we were running from the law. And I love you now, free and clear." "I love you too," Katherine replied. "You gave me everything. Your protection, your name, your heart. I will spend the rest of my life being worthy of that gift. You already are." They made love slowly, sweetly, celebrating their freedom and their future. Afterward, Katherine lay with her head on Isaac's chest. "What do we do now? Now we live. We work the ranch. We help people who need it. We build the life we want." That sounds perfect. Over the following months, life settled into a peaceful routine. Katherine threw herself into running the ranch alongside Isaac, proving to be a natural with the accounts and organization. She also began reaching out to women in need, offering assistance and sometimes shelter at the ranch. Isaac supported her fully, proud of her strength and compassion. A year after the hearing, Katherine came to Isaac with news. "I am pregnant," she said, her face glowing with joy. Isaac picked her up and spun her around, laughing. "A baby! We are going to have a baby, we are. You are going to be a father." The pregnancy progressed smoothly, and in the spring of 1876, Katherine gave birth to a healthy baby boy they named Jacob. Isaac held his son for the first time and felt overwhelmed with love and gratitude. "He is perfect," Isaac said, looking at Katherine. "You are amazing." "We made him together," Katherine replied, tired but happy. "Our little family." As Jacob grew, the ranch prospered. Isaac expanded his herd and built a larger house to accommodate their growing family. Katherine continued her work helping women, and word spread that the Ford Ranch was a place where anyone in trouble could find assistance. When Jacob was 3, Katherine became pregnant again, this time with a daughter they named Emma. Then, 2 years later, came another boy, Michael. Their house was full of laughter and love, and Isaac marveled at how much his life had changed since that night. Katherine stumbled into his barn. One evening, when Jacob was 10 and helping with the ranch work, Katherine and Isaac sat on their porch watching the sunset. "Do you ever think about that night?" Katherine asked. "When I showed up covered in blood and afraid, all the time," Isaac admitted. "It was the night my real life began, mine too. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had not found your barn, if I had kept running and ended up somewhere else. But you did not. You found me, and I found you, and that is all that matters." Katherine leaned her head on his shoulder. "I am so grateful for you, Isaac. For your courage in helping me, for believing in me when everyone else thought I was a murderer. You saved my life." "We saved each other," Isaac corrected. "Before you, I was just going through the motions, working the ranch, existing but not really living. You gave me purpose, gave me a family. You made me better." They sat in comfortable silence, watching their children play in the yard. Jacob was teaching Emma how to rope a fence post while Michael toddled after them, laughing. "They are happy," Katherine said. "They have no idea what we went through, what it cost to get here. That is how it should be. They get to have the childhood we make for them, free from fear and running." Over the years, the Ford Ranch became known throughout Arizona territory as a place of integrity and compassion. Isaac's cattle business thrived, and Katherine's informal network for helping women in trouble grew into a recognized organization. They hired staff, opened a small house in Fort Bowie where women could stay temporarily, and worked with local law enforcement to prosecute men who abused their power. The Garrett family never directly retaliated, though there were rumors they tried to cause trouble for the Fords in various ways. But Isaac and Katherine had built strong relationships in the community, and people remembered the truth about Deputy Garrett. The family's influence waned over time, especially after the eldest Garrett brother was caught embezzling from the territorial government. As their children grew into adults, Isaac and Katherine watched with pride. Jacob became a lawyer, inspired by Samuel Preston's work on his mother's case. He specialized in defending the poor and powerless, carrying on his parents' legacy of justice. Emma married a rancher from a neighboring property and stayed close to home, often bringing her own children to visit. Michael joined the Territorial Rangers, determined to be the kind of lawman Deputy Garrett should have been. On their 25th wedding anniversary, Isaac and Katherine renewed their vows in a ceremony attended by their children, grandchildren, and friends from across the territory. Samuel Preston, now a judge himself, officiated. "Isaac and Katherine Ford," Samuel said, "you have built a life together founded on love, trust, and courage. You faced impossible odds and came through stronger. Your love story has inspired everyone who knows you." Isaac took Katherine's hands, looking into the green eyes that had captivated him from the very beginning. "Katherine, when you stumbled into my barn that night, I had no idea you would become my everything. You are my partner, my love, the mother of my children, and my best friend. I would do it all again, face any danger, take any risk, just to have this life with you." Katherine smiled through tears. "Isaac, you saved me when I had nowhere else to turn. You believed me when no one else would. You stood beside me and fought for me and loved me, even when it was dangerous to do so. Everything good in my life came from that moment you chose to help a desperate stranger. I love you more today than I did on the day we married, and I will love you more tomorrow than I do today." They kissed as their family and friends applauded, and Isaac thought about the long, unlikely journey that had brought them to this moment. A fugitive and a cowboy, brought together by fate, bound together by love. As the celebration continued, Isaac stood with Samuel for a moment, watching Katherine laugh with their grandchildren. "You know," Isaac said, "sometimes I still cannot believe how everything worked out. It could have gone so differently." "You made it work out," Samuel replied. "You took a risk when anyone else would have turned her away. You fought for her when the smart thing would have been to let her go. That is love, Isaac, real love, the kind that risks everything and never regrets it." That night, after all the guests had left, Isaac and Katherine sat on their porch, just as they had done countless times over the years. The Arizona night was clear and cool, stars brilliant overhead. "What are you thinking about?" Katherine asked. "Everything. Nothing. How lucky I am." Isaac pulled her closer. "We have built a good life, Katherine, better than I ever imagined possible. We have. And we have helped others build good lives too. That matters. It does." Isaac was quiet for a moment. "Do you ever regret it? Any of it?" Katherine looked at him in surprise. "Regret? Isaac, why would I regret the best thing that ever happened to me? I mean the circumstances. Having to run, to hide, to fight for your freedom. If Deputy Garrett had been a better man, if you had never had to defend yourself, you could have had a different life. An easier life." Katherine took his face in her hands. "Listen to me, Isaac Ford. I do not regret a single moment. Yes, what happened with Deputy Garrett was terrible. Yes, running and hiding was frightening. But it led me to you, and I would go through it all again 100 times if this is where I ended up. Here, with you, with our family, with this life we built together." Isaac kissed her, pouring all his love into that simple gesture. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. "Besides," Katherine added with a grin, "if I had lived that easier life, I would have married some boring merchant, had a few boring children, and spent my days planning boring tea parties." "Where is the adventure in that?" Isaac laughed. "I cannot imagine you ever being boring." "And I cannot imagine loving anyone the way I love you." Katherine rested her head on his shoulder. "You are my adventure, Isaac. Every day with you is an adventure." They sat together in peaceful contentment as the night deepened around them. Inside the house, their children and grandchildren were staying over, filling the rooms with warmth and life. The ranch that Isaac had built alone was now a home, alive with family and love and purpose. Years later, when Isaac was in his 60s, he and Katherine were sitting in that same spot on the porch when one of their granddaughters came to them with questions. Sarah was 15, bright and curious, and she had been studying the history of Arizona Territory in school. "Grandmother," Sarah said, settling on the porch steps, "my teacher was talking about famous trials in territorial history. She mentioned something about a woman who killed a deputy marshal and got away with it. The teacher made it sound like a miscarriage of justice, but the name she gave was yours, Katherine Noble. Were you that woman?" Isaac felt Katherine tense beside him, and he squeezed her hand. They had always known this conversation would come someday with their grandchildren. Katherine took a breath and nodded. "Yes, Sarah, I was that woman." "Did you really kill him?" "I did. He was attacking me, trying to force himself on me, and I defended myself. He fell and hit his head. I never meant to kill him, but I am not sorry I survived." Sarah was quiet, processing this. "The teacher said you ran from justice." "I ran from injustice," Katherine corrected gently. "The man I killed was a deputy marshal from a powerful family. If I had stayed, I would have hanged, regardless of the truth. So I ran, and I ended up here at your grandfather's ranch. He hid me, protected me, helped me fight for my freedom. Because of him, and because of good people who were willing to tell the truth, I got to live. I got to have this life, this family." "That is not what they teach in school," Sarah said. "They say the law is always right." Isaac spoke up. "The law is made by people, Sarah, and people are not always right. Sometimes the law is used to protect the powerful and punish the weak. Your grandmother and I, we did what we knew was right, even when it was dangerous. That is the lesson I hope you learn. Do what is right, even when it is hard." "Especially when it is hard," Sarah nodded slowly. "I am proud to be your granddaughter," she said. "Both of you, you are brave." After Sarah went inside, Katherine wiped tears from her eyes. "I worried she would think less of me. Our grandchildren know who you are. They know the woman who helps anyone in need, who fights for the weak, who loves with her whole heart. The circumstances of how we met does not change any of that. Still, it is hard having people think you are a criminal when you were just trying to survive. Then we keep telling our story. We keep making sure people understand that justice and law are not always the same thing." Isaac pulled Katherine to her feet. "Come on, let's go inside with our family. That is what matters, not what some school teacher says, but this, us, the life we built." As they walked into the house hand in hand, Isaac reflected on everything they had been through together. The fear, the danger, the close calls, the trial, the years of building a life and a family. It had not been easy, but it had been worth it. Every moment had been worth it. Katherine turned to him in the doorway and smiled, the same smile that had captured his heart all those years ago. "I love you, Isaac. I love you too. Always have, always will." Inside, their family was gathered around the dinner table, 3 generations of Fords laughing and talking and sharing a meal. Jacob was telling a story about one of his cases. Emma was trying to wrangle her young children, and Michael was debating politics with one of his brothers-in-law. It was chaotic and loud and perfect. Isaac took his seat at the head of the table with Katherine beside him, and he looked around at all the faces of the people they had created and brought together. This was their legacy, not the scandal or the trial or the rumors that still occasionally surfaced. This family, this love, this life. Years continued to pass, bringing both joy and sorrow. They lost friends, including Samuel, who died peacefully at the age of 78. They celebrated weddings and births, mourned losses, and weathered the inevitable storms of life. Through it all, Isaac and Katherine remained each other's constant. When Isaac turned 70, his body started to show the effects of a lifetime of hard ranch work. His joints ached, his back troubled him, and he could no longer do the physical labor he once had. But his mind remained sharp, and he took to spending his days managing the ranch's business affairs while younger men did the physical work. Katherine, at 66, was still vibrant and active, though she too moved more slowly than in her youth. Her hair had gone silver and laugh lines creased her face. Isaac thought she had never been more beautiful. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset, Katherine said, "Do you ever wonder how much time we have left?" Isaac was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes. We have been blessed with long lives and good health, but I know we are in the final chapter." "I am not afraid of dying," Katherine said. "Not anymore. I was so afraid when I was young, when I was running and hiding. But now I've lived a full life. I have been loved and have loved. I have made a difference. When my time comes, I will be ready." "I do not want to imagine this world without you in it," Isaac admitted. "Then do not. And know that whether it is me who goes first or you, the other will not be alone for long. We are too connected. When one of us leaves, the other will follow soon after." Isaac knew she was right. They were so intertwined that he could not imagine his heart continuing to beat without her in the world. As it turned out, Katherine's prediction was accurate, though not in the way Isaac expected. He suffered a heart attack at the age of 74, collapsing while checking on the cattle. His sons found him and brought him back to the house, and the doctor said there was nothing to be done. His heart was simply worn out. Katherine sat by his bedside, holding his hand. Their children and grandchildren filled the house, but in the bedroom it was just the two of them. "I am sorry," Isaac said, his voice weak. "I wanted more time with you." "We had 47 years, Katherine replied, tears streaming down her face. "That is more than most people ever get. And every single day was a gift." "Promise me something," Isaac said. "Promise me you will keep helping people, keep fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves. That was always the best thing about you." "I promise. But Isaac, I do not want to do it without you." "You will not have to for long." Isaac smiled despite the pain. "Remember what you said about us being too connected. I am just going on ahead. You will catch up soon enough." "That is not comforting," Katherine said, but she was smiling through her tears. Isaac squeezed her hand with what little strength he had left. "I have never regretted it, Katherine, not for one moment. Hiding you, facing the sheriff, fighting for you, marrying you, building this life. It was all worth it. You were worth it. You will always be worth it." "I love you," Katherine whispered. "I have loved you since that first night when you believed me without question. I will love you until my last breath and beyond. And I love you, more than words can say." Isaac's eyes were growing heavy. "Thank you for stumbling into my barn that night. Thank you for giving me the best 47 years of my life. Thank you for being brave enough to help a desperate woman. Thank you for every kindness, every sacrifice, every moment of love." Isaac closed his eyes, and Katherine held him as his breathing slowed and finally stopped. Their children came in, mourning their father, but Katherine just sat, holding the hand of the man who had been her savior, her partner, her love. True to her prediction, Katherine followed Isaac just 3 months later. The doctor said her heart simply gave out, but everyone who knew her understood the truth. She had promised Isaac she would not be alone for long, and she had kept that promise, just as she had kept every promise she ever made him. They were buried side by side on the ranch, under the big cottonwood tree where they had often sat together. Their children erected a simple headstone that read, Isaac and Katherine Ford. He gave her sanctuary. She gave him love. Together they built a legacy of compassion and courage. Years later, the Ford Ranch became a registered historical site, not because of the cattle operation, but because of the work Katherine had done helping women in need. The small house in Fort Bowie that she had established grew into a full organization that still operated decades later. Historians wrote about the famous trial, and Katherine's story became an example cited in legal texts about self-defense and women's rights. But for those who knew them, for their children and grandchildren, and the people whose lives they had touched, Isaac and Katherine Ford were not historical figures or legal precedents. They were simply two people who had found each other in desperate circumstances and built a life founded on love, trust, and unwavering commitment. Their grandson Thomas, Jacob's eldest son, became a writer and penned a book about his grandparents' story. In the foreword, he wrote, "My grandparents taught us that love is not just a feeling but a choice to believe, to protect, to stand beside someone even when the world says you should not. My grandfather chose to help a woman running from the law. That choice changed both their lives and created a ripple effect that is still felt today in the lives they touched and the family they created. Their love story began with danger and fear, but it ended with peace and fulfillment. That is the power of choosing love, even when it is risky, even when it is hard, especially when it is hard." The book became popular throughout the territory and beyond, and people traveled to Arizona to visit the ranch and see where the famous couple had lived. But the ranch remained in the Ford family, passed down through generations, and remained a working cattle operation while also serving as a reminder of the couple who had started it all. On the 100th anniversary of the trial that had freed Katherine, the Ford family held a reunion at the ranch. Over 200 descendants came, representing 4 generations of Fords. They gathered around Isaac and Katherine's graves, and the oldest living grandchild, Sarah, now 90 years old, spoke. "I knew my grandparents," Sarah said, her voice still strong despite her age. "I was lucky enough to know them as real people, not just characters in a story. And I want you all to know what they would want you to know. They would want you to be brave, to stand up for what is right even when it costs you, to help those who need help, to believe those who need believing, to love with your whole heart and never apologize for it." That was how they lived, and that is the legacy they left us. Not land or money, though they left that too, but a legacy of courage and compassion. That is what it means to be a Ford. As the family stood together in the Arizona sunshine, on the land that Isaac had built and Katherine had made a home, they all felt the presence of those two souls who had started it all. The cowboy who had chosen to hide a fugitive. The woman who had fought for her freedom. Two people who had loved each other against all odds and built something beautiful that would last long after they were gone. The story of Isaac and Katherine Ford became a legend in Arizona, told and retold, adapted and embellished, but always carrying the same message at its core: that love and courage can overcome injustice. That one person choosing to do the right thing can change everything. That the law is not always just, but people can be. And that the most important legacy anyone can leave is not wealth or fame, but a family who loves each other and carries forward the values that matter. In the end, that was what Isaac and Katherine had accomplished. They had faced impossible odds, survived danger and scandal, and built a life that stood as a testament to the power of love and human decency. They had started with nothing but fear and hope, and created something that would endure for generations. And somewhere, in whatever comes after this life, Isaac and Katherine were together still, watching over the family they had created, the land they had loved, and the legacy that would never die. Two souls who had found each other in the darkness and created light. A cowboy and a fugitive whose love story became legend. Forever together, forever remembered, forever proof that love can conquer even the hardest odds.